Yar, what's up me mateys, and welcome to Aesthetic Imaging Video Tutorials. Today we're gonna be learning how to create the Jolly Roger. If you saw the many uses of fractal noise part... jeez. If you've seen the many uses of fractal noise part 2, you saw that part where we created that flag motion, and I said I was gonna do a whole episode just based on that. Well, guess what? Now we're here with the new and improved and many more uses of fractal noise. So, like I said, this is actually a new and improved version of the flag animation that I taught you. There's some different techniques. We're gonna go deeper into fractal noise and some of the other settings that we kind of glossed over and just didn't do anything about. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, I just wanted to say this was not the tutorial I had in mind. I actually wanted to show you how to make pirate booty. But unfortunately, due to YouTube's TOS, I'm unable to show you the booty. Buckle up, people. There's a lot more of those jokes ahead. All right, so to get started, let's create a new composition. We're going to call this flag comp. And we're going to make this 1920 by 1080. And we'll do 23.976 frames per second. 10 seconds is fine. Background color, black, that's fine. If your composition comes like this and you don't know, to get the black background, just toggle off this transparency grid. Boom. All right, let's set this to fit up to 100%, and let's create our flag. So we're going to start off by creating the skull and crossbones. And what I'm going to do is just go to the ellipse tool here, and I'm just going to make a big old circle. Yeah, something like that. All right, so we're going to take the fill, and we're going to turn it to a solid. And white is fine. And stroke, we're actually going to turn off. Hit OK. We're going to make sure that our shape layer is selected, and we're going to create 2 more ellipses for the eyeballs. Just like that. And one like that. There we go. Crazy cartoon Scully. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take all 3 of these ellipses and we're going to hit Command G to add them to a group. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up our contents and we're going to go Add, Merge Paths. All right, so nothing has happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch the mode from Merge to Exclude Intersections. And we're going to add this to the group. So now we're going to make sure that our group is not selected, but our shape layer is. And we're going to switch this to a rectangle tool. So we're just going to create a little rectangle here. Just like that. Set it right there. Why not? All right, so we're going to create another rectangle for the bones. Something like that. All right, so now we're going to grab our ellipse tool again. And we're just going to add some bone things to our bone. You know, just some circles. There we go, like that. Let's take these 4 ellipses and the second rectangle, Command G, put it in a group. Actually, let's rename this to Bones. While this one can be Skull. Change this one to Mouth, maybe? I don't know. All right, let's go to Transform Bones. And let's rotate this a little bit. All right, so let's just keep on going. All right, so I want to move my skull up a bit. Click, hold down Shift, that moves it up. And click on our bones, maybe move them up. or that up. So now we're going to click on the bones group and hit Command D to duplicate that. And let's go down to Transform Bones 2. And let's rotate it this way. All right, so now we have our pirate flag design. Actually, let's do this. Let's rotate it even more, so that it's kind of going the opposite. There you go. All right, so let's close this up. Now we have our skull. All right, so now that we have our skull and crossbones all set up, let's create a new solid. And we're going to make this dark gray. Okay, and we're going to drag this down to the bottom. So what we're going to do now in our first instance of fractal noise is we're going to create kind of like a faded look, because right now this looks too nice and neat. So what we're going to do is go over to Effects and Presets, and we're going to type in fractal noise. There you go. It's under Noise and Grain, fractal noise, and let's not do that. Let's create a new solid, and this is going to be called Ink Fade. Although, would it be ink? All right, so now we're going to take our fractal noise and put that on top of our ink fade. All right, so we want to make this, the scale of this larger, like by a lot. Maybe something like that. But then we're also going to up the contrast by a whole bunch as well. Maybe something like that. And we can turn down the brightness. And we want a little bit more detail, so we're going to turn up the complexity. Something like that. So what we're doing, we're creating a black and white matte. And we'll say that the white parts are going to be where the skull and crossbones are faded. All right, so now what we're going to do, now that we have that, is we're going to hit this toggle switches and modes until we see our track matte column. We're going to add this, and we're going to do Luma matte inverted. What that means is wherever it's white, our skull will be cut out. And wherever it's black, our skull and crossbones will show through. All right, so what we're going to do is take these two layers, and we're going to pre-compose them. So we can right-click, go to Pre-compose, and we're going to call this Skull PC for pre-composition. And we're just going to hit OK. Now on this dark solid, let's make it a little bit brighter, because we're actually going to be adding more fractal noise. All right, so on top of this, we're going to add our fractal noise. And for fractal type, we're going to change that to turbulent sharp. And then we get this. All right, so what we're going to do is turn up the contrast a bit. Something like that. And then for our brightness, we're going to turn that down. And then we also want to go into our scale, or our transform actually. And we're going to go to our scale here. So what we're creating is actually threads for the fabric of the flag. So we want to bring that scale way down. Something like 3. Yeah, the threads are a little big, but let's bring that down. Something like 2. Can you do 2.5? Yeah, you can. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I had to ask that. All right, so what we're going to do is, lastly, we're going to switch this blending mode to multiply. Now you can't see it that well right here, but once we get started with the effects that build up on top of this to create the flag motion, you will be able to see the threads. All right, so next thing we want to do is, I don't like how crisp these edges are. So let's go into our skull PC, click on our skull, and we're going to add a roughen edges. It's under Stylize, roughen edges. Let's add that on top. And let's hit Shift Command H to hide our overlays. And you can already see what it's doing. It's starting to break up the edge. All right, so we're going to turn up our border just a little bit. See, as we turn up our border, the more jagged it becomes, or distorted it becomes. So let's bring that back down to maybe 10. Nailed it. Edge sharpness, that's going to be turned up a little bit there. And for scale, let's turn that down. There we go, something like that. You can mess with the complexity if you want, but I don't know, maybe something like 4. Actually, I like 2 better. There we go. And maybe turn down the scale just a little bit more. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so now we have our skull there. Let's set this blending mode to overlay. And it's a little dark. So let's do this. Let's duplicate our skull PC. And there you go. And we'll leave it like that. So let's actually get started on the motion of this flag. All right, so we're going to go over to our project window, and we're going to create a new composition, and we're going to call this one Flag Motion. Hit OK. All right, so now we're going to add a new solid to that layer. We're going to call this Fractal Noise. All right, and on top of that, we're going to add Roughen It. No, I'm just kidding. Fractal Noise. There we go. Again, under Noise and Grain, Fractal Noise. Put that on top of our Fractal Noise. So for this one, as you can see, there's many different things that we could probably choose. We're going to choose Dynamic Twist. So we get this kind of deal going on. Maybe let's mess with the contrast just a little bit here. Maybe something like that. And then we're going to switch this overflow from Allow HDR Results to Soft Clamp so that we get more grayish tones rather than that harsh black and white. All right, so now we want to go into our transform, and we're going to uncheck Uniform Scaling. Scale Width, we're going to turn up quite a bit. If you want it to go faster while you're moving the mouse, you can hold down Shift, and that'll cause it to move in faster increments, like so. All right, so we're going to set it to about there. So for, kind of looks like the surface of Jupiter. Oh. Okay, so, all right, so now for scale height, we're going to go past our scale width by a bunch. Again, holding down Shift while doing this. What we're looking for is just this, we want it to be stretched vertically. So that way, as you can see, it looks more like folds of a cloth than like clouds. All right, so now that that's done, let's go to our complexity and let's bring that down. Pretty sure I said complexity. I don't know what that is, but you know, what we're looking for is complexity. Turn that down to about 4.5. And subscaling, maybe we'll turn that up a little bit. See if we turn this down, we get more wrinkled flags. And you know what? Pirates, they have standards. They don't really mess around with their flags, you know. They keep it ironed, I guess. I don't know. What am I? Pirate expert? All right, so we're going to turn this up to maybe about 58, 59-ish. All right, so what we want to do is start animating this. So we're going to do that through the evolution. What we're going to do is alt-click on the stopwatch. By the way, here's another joke for you. What is a pirate's favorite MPAA film rating? Actually, they don't have a preference. Did you think I was going to say R? Way to stereotype. Okay, so for the expression that we're going to be putting onto our evolution, it's time times, or star, and we're going to do a value of 100. All right, so what that means is every second, the rotation of our evolution will go up by 100 degrees. So if we go to half res and play this back, We can see what that's doing. All right, this is all well and good, but we also need some more motion. And we're going to get that through opening back up our transform and going to this offset turbulence. Now we're going to go to our first frame, click on the stopwatch, and let's go to the last frame, and we're going to do our X value. We're going to bring that over to the right. And really, it's a guessing game at first. All right, maybe we can make that move a little bit faster. So let's go to this last keyframe here. Let's just hit U so we can hide everything but these keyframes. And let's bring it over even further. We'll try a 35-ish, 3,500. There we go. So that way, it's not just, you know, the fabric rippling. It gives more like a wind going through the flag kind of feel, I guess. All right, yeah, I like that. Now, the reason why, I think in the original one that I showed you, we did maybe basic, but I noticed that it's a little too linear moving. Like all the creases are just kind of like up and down. Whereas when you do, let's see what dynamic progressive gives us. Oh, that one could work too. As compared to our dynamic progressive, there's more of a, well, a twisting rotation in it. All right, so that's our flag motion. So what we can do here is start building up our actual flag with all the motion and all that. All right, so we have our flag comp and our flag motion. What we're going to do is select these two and drag them down into a new composition. And we're going to create a single composition. Dimensions from either one, doesn't matter. They're both the same size. And still duration doesn't matter either. And the only thing that we need to make sure is that sequence layers is checked off. So no sequence layers. Hit OK. All right, so this is actually in the order that we want it. So we want the flag comp on the bottom and the flag motion on top. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our flag motion and set the blending mode to multiply. Now it doesn't look so hot right now, but you can see what it's doing. It's adding shadow to this. Let's hide this for a second so we can actually see what's going on with our flag comp, or what we're about to do with it. So what we want to do is on our flag comp, we want to go to effects and presets, and we want to type in displacement map. All right, so it's under distort displacement map. Let's add that on top of our flag comp. And displacement map layer, let's set that to flag motion. And we're going to set both of these use horizontal displacement from to luminance and illuminance. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start moving this maybe horizontal. We'll do like 25-ish. And for vertical, we're going to turn that up to maybe about 40. And let's do ourselves a favor just for a second here. Let's add a fill. And let's just make this like something where you can actually see what's going on here. So flag motion 2. Oh, actually, we should go and change that. So our flag motion 2 that we just created, we're going to change that to main comp. Hit enter. All right, so this is our main comp here. So on our displacement, you can see what's happening. As we drag this up and down, it's distorting our image, which is exactly what we want. And then when we add the flag motion on top of that, because we're using the flag motion for the displacement and the shadows, they actually work off each other. So the shadows appear wherever our flag is being, pulled in or downwards. So what we're going to do is go back into our flag comp and let's just turn off that fill. Go back to our main comp here. All right, so now if you notice, we've got our edges being cut off here. So what we can do under our displacement map is click Wrap Pixels Around. So just click on that, and that fills in the blanks. Dang, that looks good. All right, so let's move on to another really awesome trick that we can use along with this single flag motion. We're gonna right click, create a new adjustment layer. We're gonna call this CC Glass, and we are going to add a CC Glass. So that's under Stylize. Put that on top of our layer. All right, so what we want to do with this is twirl open our surface, go to Bump Map, change this to Flag Motion. Nothing has really changed. So what we're going to do is go to the height, set this to 0, and displacement, set that to 0. We don't need displacement. We already have this taking care of that. All right. So we can twirl that closed again, and we can go up to Light and switch using from Effect Light to After Effects Lights. All right, so now what we're going to do is create some lights. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Light, and we're going to add a blue light. How about that? So for the intensity, right now it's set to 160, but we're just going to have to see what it looks like before we adjust that. All right, so let's move this over to here-ish. And let's select the Z handle here and move that out. Maybe move it back. We can double tap A. So double tap A to bring up our light options. There we go. We just want to turn that up a bit. Maybe bring this back and over. Let's zoom out a little bit and let's take this light, Command D to duplicate it. Let's move it over to the other side. And for this one, we're going to double tap and we're going to change the color to a orangish or yellow. Something like that. So now we actually have interactive lighting, which is pretty darn cool. Now it's a little boring, it's a little too clean for a pirate flag. It's all faded, but we need to add some dirt. So let's do that. All right, so let's go into our flag comp. And what we're gonna do is create a new solid. We're gonna call this Dirt 01. And let's make this some kind of like brownish color. Now, something like that. We can always change it later. So on top of our Dirt 01, let's add a fractal noise. How about that? Fractal noise, noise and grain, fractal noise. I think you get it by now. So we don't need to change the fractal type, but we are going to adjust the contrast. We're going to bump that up a bit. Maybe bring up the brightness like that. And for the scale, we're going to open up the transform and bring up the scale. Something like that. Complexity, let's bring that up. Something pretty nice. Nice textured dirt. And blending mode, we're going to set this to multiply. And then we're going to set the actual dirt layer to multiply as well. Now, it's a little too much, I might say. All right, so what we want to do is actually create another matte so that our dirt doesn't really show up everywhere. It shows up kind of in patches. So let's create a new solid. We'll make this just black. I guess. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But we're going to call this one Dirt 01. And we'll call it Matte. Hit OK. Ooh, you know what I just realized? We're making dirt on our pirate flag. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that they keep their flags nice and clean earlier. I don't know. That's contradictory claims there. Yeah. Oh, please. Like I actually have to worry about pirates.
I'm sorry. I didn't know pirates were still a real thing.
All right. So on top of our dirt mat, we're going to add another fractal noise. And for this one, we're going to turn to turbulent smooth. So we have this kind of weird patterny type thing. We're going to bump up the contrast. Whole bunch here. And let's turn down our brightness so we have more patchiness. I'm going to play around with our complexity here. And we'll turn that up. Seems to be a common theme, just turning it up. All right, so I think these smudges are a little bit too up and downy. So what we're going to do is go into sub settings, and we're going to go to the sub rotation, and we're just going to rotate that. That should be fine. All right, so the last thing we want to do is go to our transform and bring up the scale. Pretty decent amount, so we get larger blotches. And we'll do something like that. All right, so that's it for that. So what we're going to do is wherever this is white or brighter is where our dirt is going to show through. So we need to take our Dirt 01 and set the track matte to Luma matte this time. And if you don't like the placement of your dirt, you can always go to your dirt matte here. Maybe change the evolution. Or you can also change under evolution options, random seed. And we're actually going to be doing something like that for the next step. Because, well, dirt is not really just one color. All right, so we're going to take our Dirt 01 and Dirt 01 matte, and we're going to duplicate that, Command D. And so for this one, we're actually going to set this to overlay. So we get some more color in there. And we can even hit Shift Command Y with our layer selected to change the color of it. Maybe bring that up, maybe make it a bit more yellowish. Yeah, something like that. All right, so for our dirt matte, we actually want to change the evolution. Maybe even our evolution options, change the random seed, just so we get a different pattern. And let's take a look at what that looks like. That is a very, very dirty pirate flag. All right, so if we take a look here, we can see a problem that we're kind of having. And it is especially noticeable. See, if we were to go and turn off these dirts, we don't really see this line, but because we've added that detail in, we can now see that there's a problem with the way we're repeating our edges. Now that was under displacement map. So what we want to do is actually uncheck wrap pixels around. So for this particular instance, what we need to do is go to our flag comp, select everything, Shift Command C to pre-compose it, and we're going to call this flag PC. And then what we want to do is add a motion tile. And we want to go to our output width and height and just kind of bring this up to maybe, I don't know. All right, so now let's go back to our main comp and see what happened. Nothing. So if we click down here on our toggle switches and modes, there's going to be this icon right here. It's collapse transformations. Now, if we click that, it will carry over our motion tile. All right, so let's do something here. Let's go to our main comp. Let's click on lock here. and then go into our flag comp by double clicking it. So now we can see our flag PC. Let's take this window here. Let's move it over to this side, release it, and now we have a side by side. So if you notice, when we mirrored our edges, we just put ourselves back in the same position that we were at before. Now, if we go over to our motion tile and click on mirror edges, it's going to get rid of that. Now, you can see it does repeat, but it looks a lot better than having that line visible. So now it's a little less noticeable. All right, so we can close this up, unlock that. Here we go. Fit up to 100%. All right, so if you think that your dirt is a little too dirty, which very well might be, actually what we can do is click on that again, go to flag comp, flag PC, drag that over, boom, double side that. So we can go to our dirt 01, hit T for transparency, and maybe turn that down a bit. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Do the same thing for our dirt 02. If we turn that down too much. You know, you can adjust how much dirt you got there. But yeah, let's call that done. All right, so this has been another episode of Aesthetic Imaging Video Tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.